it's the synthetic drugs that are the problem now. It's this fentanyl. It's,
Well,
cocaine.
the
Okay,
Bible seems to call that stuff pharmakia. And I think that it's true
right,
that some drugs are not a good choice. Like meth is a bad choice. Don't, you know, crack
right,
is
but
another
it's
bad choice. But that's the point. It's up to you to figure out and make some choices and not like just be told what's good and what's bad. You know.
right. Well, so yeah, is it honor? Is it something that look? But I wouldn't smoke pot right in front of my mom, because I wouldn't want to. It's hard to explain, man. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. There are certain things that you just won't do in front of your mother or your father, whether you respect them or like them or not. There's something inherent in us to want to please the progenitors, whether it makes any sense or not. It is in us.
The Bible says raise someone up the way that you want them to be, and they will be that. So yeah, it's like
Right.
conditioned
Yeah. Yeah.
response.
So I guess we have. Yeah. If you're going to keep that sort of a mindset, then you have to get them used to whatever you're doing. If you don't have a problem with it, then they shouldn't either. That doesn't mean you walk in, your parents' house smoking a fatty. That's disrespectful. It's
Well,
it may
I
not be amoral, but
I send my mom pictures of my garden. I grow weed, and I'll grow mushrooms, and I'll send pictures of the mushrooms growing and stuff because I want to break her of that bullshit. She's a Mormon, and man, their religion
ah,
is just so crazy. It's like they don't follow the Bible at all. In fact, if the Bible says something, they go basically the other way. I have a video on my channel about how most of these churches are just straight up like satanic. Like like straight up, man. All they do is lie and just and misquote the Bible,
yep,
misrepresent it. Like for instance, just off the top of my head, the Bible says not to pray in public. It says not to even pray in synagogue, in church. It says to go into your private closet and, pray to God on your own. It's individual. You and your friends aren't going to heaven. It's one of you will go, one of you won't. You know what I mean? And so all these
yep,
churches, what do? They start a public prayer immediately. The first thing they do when they get in there. And what they're doing is they're letting you know, like, sure, the Bible says this, but you're going to do whatever the fuck we tell you to do. And that's really what these churches are. They're 501c3s. None of them follow the Bible, just like how weed's in the Bible. So our parents, they both probably have the same type of religious idea that marijuana is some sort of devil lettuce, and it's total bullshit. It makes you smarter. But I've been smoking weed straight since I was 19. I was on probation when I was a kid. Got off at 19, started smoking weed, and just fucking kept smoking weed. And I started to notice, like, maybe 5 or 10 years into it, that, like, bro, the people that don't smoke weed are straight up stupid. They're stupid. They don't. It's literally like they just dropped out of the fucking sky, and they have no experience in this world. I mean, just like how I beat these cops like it's their first day on Earth. It's like, dude, you don't know anything about any of the laws. What the fuck have you been doing with your life? And that's the point, is that,
yeah,
see, so when you smoke weed, it gets harder to think, right? Especially when you're new. It's harder to think. It's just like if if you're weight training and you're using a lot of weight, it's hard to push it up, right? But if you
yeah.
continue
You're gonna be
doing
you're gonna
that,
be in pain the next day. Yeah, you're gonna feel it the next day as pain.
yeah, you'll feel it, certainly. But after you do that for 6 months or 2 years or whatever, then it starts to be like, oh, now I can lift that amount of weight easily. And that's the same thing weed does to your brain. It feels like it's bogging you down at first, especially at first when you're a new smoker. But then your brain starts to get to where, like, oh, I know how this affects me. I know how to counteract that effect. And it's like, you just, I mean, 10, 15, now 20 years later, it's like, holy shit. None of these people really compare with my ability to think about things and like the research I've done on all these different topics, especially anything that applies to me. Like, I smoke weed, so I want to know, is weed in the Bible? Is weed legal? Is weed, how do you get away with smoking weed? Right? Where do you buy the weed? You got to know all these things about it, so that you can actually just get away with it, right? But in the end, it's like, holy crap, man, all of that stuff. I'm in Oregon now. We don't even have a drug war. I could literally have meth. Literally here. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, I didn't know that. I know that the laws are have pretty much been all, wiped clean as far as drugs go in that region, Cascadia, like Washington, Oregon,
Well, weed, I think, is
Montana.
legal
I think
up there, but
What
everything
city
else
is
is
up there?
still, I think, pretty much illegal. Here in Oregon, though, in 2021, I think the end of it, maybe, I'm not sure, they went ahead and just said, yeah, we're done with the drug war. Uh, it's pretty good laws here.
Well, it doesn't work. It never has worked. All it ever was, it was Richard Nixon's wet dream of, oh, we got to get rid of these goddamn hippies. They're all over the place and they're saying no and they're standing up and can't have it, but they're doing drugs. Let's start a drug war. Ronald Reagan didn't start the fucking drug war. Richard Nixon did. And a lot of people miss that because they're stupid.
And for some reason,
All
they
Ronald
love
Reagan
Reagan.
was all Reagan did was reaffirm the drug war. He didn't start it.
Right.
Fucking Nixon started it. Him and his tight Republican ass.
Well, we were talking about this a little bit. It's not a conservative value to make something illegal, because if you do that,
Right.
now you have to pay a whole government agency to exist so that they can go around attacking people for flowers and checking their buttholes and checking their kids' buttholes, for flowers.
Yep. Which is,
That's
I always
liberal.
thought it
That's
was-
a big government. And they're using,
I always. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
like, they're confusing the issue by putting certain topics on the wrong side. Like BLM should be on the right, because it's saying
Correct.
defund the government. That's conservative. That's less money for the government. That's a smaller government. That's conserving. That's conserving your money for you. Whereas liberal means a lot. That's literally what it means. Like, a cream, apply liberally. It means a lot.
Like more than you need.
Yeah,
Right.
more than you need.
Maybe.
Yep.
Have a little bit extra. Don't be shy with it.
And so that's
My,
what liberal is supposed to mean. That's what Democrats are supposed to stand for. But BLM, dude, that's smaller government, so that should be on the right. The drug war, that's a bigger government, so that should be on the left. And all they're doing is just like, since they're in charge of the parties, they're just like, we'll just choose to put it over here so that we can get that extra 15%, so that it's always kind of 50-50, and that no one's really understanding there is a right answer to this, and it is conservative. It's very conservative, to the point of almost anarchy, but we have to have something. See, the thing that anarchists don't understand is that you can convince 100 million people not to do something just by saying it's illegal. And that's great, because these people are too fucking dumb to be making choices. That's true. They're not good at choices. Maybe there's too many choices in life, for anyone to really be good at making choices. Every time we do it, it doesn't seem to really work out that well, unless we're just repeating something that somebody showed us back when we were smarter. Like the people that wrote the Constitution, they were geniuses. Privately educated. That's why.
Right,
Someone
but
was-
you know what? How many distractions do they have in their daily life? None, like next to none. I mean,
Right.
Kennedy, I don't think that people are inherently stupid. I think that they're just distracted to the point of not being able to focus on any one thing. So
Well,
we're all
you
over
know,
the
this
place.
the socialism is the socialism to me is the biggest problem because when you go to a real legit school, somebody like a private school, someone like maybe your dad or something is going to be like poking you in the chest for fucking things up. And that doesn't happen in public schools. They're always pampered and they're always like, it's okay if you didn't get any of the right answers on this test. We'll just move on to something else next week, and you'll never
Yeah,
realize how big of a hole you've got in your knowledge because it's like, dude, no one gives a fuck about any of these kids, really. And like,
nobody does.
no one's poking them in the chest like, you fucked up, you need to do better. Like, you need to do better, Like, you have to struggle against something, just like the weights. You have to struggle against something to get good at. Like, why do I know the law so much? It's because I've been attacked by pigs a bunch of times. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Straight up. And that's how it works, is like, if you don't have that conflict, you don't get better. It's like, I went to what would be considered a good school. It was mostly white.
Yep.
A Mormon community, and it was clean, and it was definitely big enough for all the students and everything like that. Plenty of teachers. But the truth is, man, the people that they churn out just ended up being fucking idiots. Like, they were so lazy and just they weren't focused, and it's like every year it compounded. It just kept getting worse because it's like, dude, you're missing so much that by high school they're all basically lost and they're just basically cheat. And I was the guy that would let people cheat off me. I felt bad for these people. Like, dude, they gave us the answer on Monday. It's Friday. We're having a quiz. How do you not know this?
Yeah.
Because they don't understand it. Like, when there's a spot for something to fit in, bam, you fit it in, and it's like, oh shit, now that works, right? But when everything else is empty around it, like a puzzle, how are you going to figure out where the middle puzzle piece goes if you don't have the other ones filled in? You just can't.
Yeah.
So they were in a good school. The community spent lots of money on this fucking place, on these buildings and teachers and stuff. And then what do they get in return? Just kids that are basically just so fucking lazy and disinterested. They just, don't care. And then to the point where they actually think that, like, they're getting somewhere by getting a good grade. You're not getting anywhere by cheating and getting a good grade. You need to actually fucking know this stuff, because otherwise you're going to be one of these idiots on these auditing videos that tells someone they can't film,
Yeah.
Which those guys are everywhere. You literally can't go to a public building with a camera without somebody throwing a fucking tantrum. It's like, dude, you were the lazy one all throughout school. You're the one that was too concerned with your bullshit to actually, like, figure out who creates laws or something, And now here you're telling me what I'm allowed to do? Like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
It's it comes down to, you don't hand your kid over to a socialist and expect shit to work out for you. You just don't. They don't give a fuck. Honestly, if they do care, it's probably creepy.
Yeah, they have an ulterior motive.
Right. Like, bro, they want to hang out with your kids all day for their whole life for some reason. And it doesn't seem to be to educate, So what the fuck is the reason? Maybe it's the free money. It's a cake job. You just walk around drinking your coffee, and then you go talk to the kids, and you don't even have to be right about the shit that you're saying, So
Right, you just do some paperwork, and you don't you don't stir the pot. It's the same. It's the same culture as the pigs, man. They're It was that way at my school as well. I mean, with the teachers, right? Like, there was Zionism influences every part of our lives that involves commerce, from the day we're born until the day we die. The banking system is controlled by a global Jewish cartel. Anybody who tries to tell you otherwise doesn't know what they're fucking talking about, or they're part of the system. When we talk about, people will tongue in cheek talk about the Death Star of David. That's a real thing. Who the fuck do you think is financing all these wars, man? These international bankers. Who are they? They're Jews, man, and they're Zionist Jews. Zionism is the reason for the bloody season of war, man. That's just all there is to it.
Well, do you know about the Catholics?
They're right. They're heavily invested in warfare too, or at least they were for centuries.
Well, if you just look at some basic facts, bro, there's a billion Catholics. A billion.
Right. Yeah.
We're talking money and power for as long as human history has been shared with us, anyway. And we're talking this gigantic. I don't personally think that. I don't know what it is with the Jews. Okay, we created Israel. I'll tell you that much. With the Balfour Declaration, England, the United States created Israel. So who are the Zionists? It's kind of us. Who controls us? I personally think it's the Catholics. I don't like any of their religion either. It's so fucked up. It's like, don't have graven images. So you go to a Catholic church and it's like, fucking everything's a graven image here. They'll wear them on their necks. I'm a Christian. No, that's not what that means, bud. That means you don't listen to the Bible. That means you don't love it. Just like how the Bible says no Christmas trees, and what do all these Catholics out here do? Christmas. So, dude, who's pushing the satanic stuff? It's the Catholics. Now, I don't know how the Jews fit in, but truthfully, there's only something like 30 million Jews. So, they're not going to be able to defeat, a billion, because that's literally a drop in the bucket compared to that. And as far as I'm concerned, the Pope is essentially like some sort of world owner. He's like the owner of the world or something. He declared it himself. I don't know if you heard about that a long time ago.
Sure. Well,
you constantly see politicians and stuff begging up to the Pope, like, what? Who cares what that guy thinks? Oh, well, it turns out every fucking buddy, basically.
Yeah. Well, we all. If world government had a PR guy, that's the Pope. That's the Pope. Right? I mean, whether he's actually in charge or not, I don't know. He's probably not. He's a sock puppet, just like presidents. But behind him is this shadow council, right? There's always been that. They're the same ones that changed the continuity of the Bible during the Nicene Council, and they invented the Trinity and all that other shit. And they actually changed it and put it in the Bible. They didn't just change the theology or the doctrine. They changed what the Bible said.
Yeah.
They took books out and they put verses in.
Right.
People don't want to hear that, man. But, look, if the Catholics are in charge and they're actually, using the Jews for whatever, what's the end run? I mean, because there is a certain part of Jewish theology that says everybody else on the planet is inferior to you. They learn that as doctrine, okay? It's very subtle, but they learn that. That's their truth. I know that because I've seen them. I've had Jewish friends and they've showed me this.
Yeah, I know that. I know. I agree.
And they say that's why that's why I don't go to synagogue, and that's why I don't follow this religion, because of this.
Yeah, sometimes we can't even tell. Yeah, it's a tough thing. I've distilled Christianity down to the things that Christ said he was: truth, way, and life. I think that those are all seriously important. The truth may be the most important thing there is.
Oh, the truth is absolutely the most important thing there is.
And then
And
life is no less important than that, because, if you're not alive, then what's the truth, And then as far as the way, that's what we're studying, right? With the laws and all this stuff that we study and all these auditors are trying to learn. We're trying to learn the way.
Right, and the way is a question. Is it right? Should we do it?
What is the way? And yeah. So that's why I don't really take a look at any specific verses, anything anymore. I don't look at any of the prophecies as true or not true. It sure seems like the shit is playing out, but that doesn't mean it is a prophecy, because it could be self-fulfilling, right?
As far as I'm concerned, since at least 600 AD, the Catholic Church has been the major motivator in most of the wars in Europe and the Middle East.
Yeah.
That's, they're not in the business of saving souls, they're in the war business.
Yeah.
They have been since the First Crusade. Maybe even before that, when they were when they were in Rome, and they probably controlled that empire too. Yeah, but Catholicism, it's nothing but pagan idolatry, man. Period. I've known a lot of really nice Catholics who were good people that probably will go to heaven, but they're ground level Catholics.
Right.
Right?
Well, you know what? To tell you the truth, man, the gate is narrow, and the path is difficult. And to tell you the truth, you don't accidentally get in. I don't think so. Like, you're not gonna stumble into it. You're either gonna kind of take it upon yourself to study up what you can. Maybe you can't learn anything, but we can. We can find out. Are we supposed to do graven images? Are we supposed to pray to Mary? Are we supposed to pray to these other saints and stuff? Like, dude, it doesn't take a fucking brain to notice that there's a problem, and if you just keep going with it, dude, that's not life. That's not a soul. That you're just a fucking puke if you do. You just go with shit, man. Like, you can't just. You have to be a legitimate vessel creating a soul, man. You straight up, you have to create that soul. It's gonna grow in you, or else you're gonna not be a vessel that can grow a soul, because you're gonna be too full of shit. You're gonna be chasing money.
Talking about souls is a very interesting topic, but anyway, we were talking about souls, and I agree that it's like it's like owning a supercar, but you leave it in the yard and you let the grass grow up around it, the tires go flat, shit starts rusting. If you don't exercise it and maintain it, you're going to lose it.
I want to change your analogy to something different, because I see it as, it's more like a go-kart that you started out building. You had a go-kart, okay. I had a go-kart. We built ours. You built yours, it sounds like. It was mostly me and my brother, but then my dad would help on stuff that we didn't know or whatever, or get us into town to buy it or whatever.
Sure.
But otherwise, he found the frame, and we found an engine, and got it all bolted on, worked out. And, at first, it probably didn't have a big enough engine, and it wasn't very fast. But then we ended up finding a different engine and bolting it on there, and, then we figured out how to gear it up so that we could actually get going 45 miles an hour, Or we could gear it down, and we could cruise around up in the dirt, not off the road. So that's more like what a soul is, because it's like the more time you work on, your morality, and you're being honest and having a good reason to work together and valuing teamwork, and getting rid of the assholes too, kind of like what you're saying. You were calling it xenophobia or something, but it's more like, hey, you do shit totally different than us. You smell different than us. You this or that. You know, we just rather do this thing together because we're working on our go kart over here, man. You know, basically is what it is, right? So as the years go on, though, your go kart is getting faster. You get maybe better brakes or better, you know. It's not just a badass car that gets rusted over and fucked up. No, you got to build it from ground up. And when you're a kid, you're like fucking you hit your sister or whatever. It's like not quite a supercar yet, right? But
Right. Yeah.
in time,
okay, I get it.
you're gonna have
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
To me, that's what it is, and that's why there's so many people running around, straight up no souls. They're straight up NPCs, man.
Yeah.
They don't make any choices.
Yeah,
They make no
I
choices for
agree
themselves.
with you.
They'll read in the Bible, no Christmas trees, and they'll go to no praying in public, no Christmas trees, and they'll go pray at the Christmas tree the fucking following moment. You know, 5 minutes later.
Yep.
It's like it's the craziest shit. It's like, dude, either the book is bullshit and you need to just stay the fuck away from it, or else it's true and you probably ought to follow it. But no matter what, you're choosing the wrong choice. You know.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I'm looking
I
at
don't
it with
believe
most
that.
people.
I don't believe that the Bible are polite suggestions. You know, I don't believe that the lessons of morality and interrelationships and our interaction with whatever God is. You know, if you want to define an alien, it's God. You know, like we don't know jack shit about God. We really don't. What we get from the Bible is this dude, you know, that lives in the sky or lives everywhere who just wipes humanity out whenever he feels like they've been bad enough. You know, right? And he's very much in the Old Testament. He's very much like the Greek gods. You know, sticking his fingers in people's business. Like I don't necessarily believe all of that, man. Like,
Oh, you know what? That's a legal principle that you're bringing up. God actually cannot interfere, otherwise, we can't possibly be judged. See, because if he's sticking his finger down in business, then what that means is that we don't have free will because, you know, we're just going to have to deal with whatever the effects of his actions are. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is
Right.
like actually a legal
Yeah,
principle.
Right. I get that. That is an interesting point that you make, dude, because I've always, you know, like God has these immutable traits, omnipotence, and
Omnipresence.
he's everywhere. He knows everything, and he is all powerful. It's God's supremacy clause.
Right.
Got those three things. But now, just consider this. If God knows everything, that means that there cannot possibly be any original human thought. If you follow that premise to its logical conclusion, it means that there is no original thought, which means that we cannot really sin ever. If God knows everything, nothing that we do is novel. Nothing that we do is ultimately self-determined because he knows.
Well, but
He
the
knows
thing
what's
is
going to
that
happen. If not,
the evil actually has these traits. Okay, for one thing, a trait that evil has is they have a disregard for others, right?
right? Yes.
And it's
Absolutely.
repugnant in God's eyes. That's what makes it a sin. So there's definitely all
Right.
sorts of sin, even though yeah, it's all mapped out, nothing new under the sun. But yeah. What do you think about that?
Okay. Yeah, I see the faulty thinking on my part there, but the logical conclusion is there is no original thought, right? Like there's no real creativity in the human race because God already knows what we're going to do. And if what he thinks is the only thing that matters, and that's what we're taught, right? Like God is the ultimate power, which means that his opinion is the only one that matters. Nothing that we have to say can possibly be more influential, right? I mean, does that make sense, or am I being a fool?
I think that God's always going to make a qualitative point. You know, it's not just, yeah, you're a happy guy because you got all these gems. You just murdered a bunch of people for them. It's like the quality is always going to be the thing to me that God is going to be interested in. Is the where you're like, I built up all this stuff through hard work, teamwork, cooperation. You know, I built up all the people around me. You know, maybe I got a whole company now, and there's all these people that feed their families and all that stuff because of me. And it's always going to be like, you know, we all have these choices to make in life. It's always going to be the easiest to do the fucked up thing. Like being a doctor is the easiest way to get money. It's not an easy way to be a good person. But since you don't care about that, you don't have quality to you. All you care about is the quantity of these dollars that you can. I want more than that guy has, essentially, right?
Yeah. Well, that's predatory capitalism. But there are nuances to that. There are nuances to capitalism to keep it moral and ethical, and the world has lost that, I think, for the most part. At least the people in charge have definitely lost it. I mean, you know,
there's
the world
definitely
is a corporation.
there's definitely a lot of problems with capitalism. Sorry, what?
Yeah. Well, it's not the problem with capitalism. It's how these corporations are operating. They're not operating as capitalists anymore. They're operating as a techno-fascist communist hybrid.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
yeah, they're like mining money for money's sake instead of like money is supposed to be like the thing you keep track with of how good you're helping yourself and the people around you, and they're like doing it like it's a fucking game to get the most amount of money, and like, yeah, they're screwing it up, but every tool could be used wrong. Just like a screwdriver could become a murder weapon, you know?
Yeah, or they use it as a pry bar, you know, man. That's, you know, yeah.
And that stuff's just always going to happen, but, you know, that's the problem with communism, though, is because now everybody is doing this immoral shit. And that's why 30 million people fucking starve as soon as anything else, because it's just like, dude, you either have to bully someone into going and working at the factory and actually producing something, or like, I mean, what? How do you even get them to do it? There's not the self-driving forces that just like help to me.
Well,
but they like it because they can have everything just exactly like they want. And to me, this is all like some sort of testing ground. Like, you know how England, they drive on the other side of the road?
Yeah.
Like they're doing the numbers on this, and they're figuring out which side of the car is best to have the driver's side on. You know, that's what they're doing. They're figuring out how many people die from wrecks when you have the driver's side on the other side, you know. They're doing per capita graphs and figuring out. See, they're using these countries as like these as guinea pig, like testing rats or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is something they're doing. And this full-on control, you know, I learned this from playing like city simulators, like games on the computer. Eventually,
like
your
city or
right. Eventually, your city and your infrastructure is going to need it's going to need more than can be really accomplished at that time. And every once in a while, there's just a die-off, you know, in these games. Like, things just stop really functioning, supplies stop getting here, and then because of that, the city. Sometimes they'll devolve into like lesser buildings, or depends on how the game is set up. But a lot of times things just collapse, and the reason is this top-down control. It doesn't work. You have to have every person be a thinking being that's contributing in his way that he sees, and that's why things like the market matter so much, because it's like, oh, now it's a good time for me to build up corn because corn is so valuable, so I should grow some corn, right? And that stuff is just, it's baked right into freedom, but it's lacking in top-down leadership. Well, they're telling everyone what to think, and everyone's going for it. And they're like, don't you get it? They told us what to think. And they'll argue with us. They'll start fights with us at the post office because somebody told them something. And now they just fucking are going with it.
Yeah. I think that is, the thing that disappoints me most about the audits is this fucking blasé attitude that these Americans that are in these civil servant jobs have towards everybody who's not just us. That is the most disappointing thing.
They have contempt for us.
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
They think we're the fucking problem around here. It's the craziest thing.
It really is, man.
Dude.
There's nothing crazier, really. Except,
no, there isn't. It's what I call it is delusions of grandeur, where they think that they're the king and they're like, they can't be bothered with this because they're just so superior to it. And like, dude, it's delusions of grandeur. They're delusional. It's basically all public servants are just straight up delusional. Delusions of grandeur. That's when you think you're the king, but you're not. Okay? Right?
Yeah. They need to be, man, look, if back in colonial times, before and during, when the founders were doing their thing, public punishments for acting like that were so embarrassing that like those people never did that. Yeah, they never did, or put them in the stock, or flogging them in the town square, or putting the headgear on that they have to wear around, because they blab their mouths or whatever. They talk shit about people or whatever. Those punishments, they should have never been excluded. They should have never been called cruel and unusual because they serve a purpose. It's a physical correction for a mental infraction that comes out in the way that you act. And sometimes that's the only way people are going to learn, man. There has to be a fucking penalty, and it has to be fucking real. That's why these people get away with what they're doing now, because they've written policy that lets them get away with it.
Well, no, it's not legal what they're doing. It's just that, honestly, no one calls them on it. No one presses criminal charges on the public servant for disrupting their business at the public building. And we can do that. We can poke them in the chest and say, you're doing wrong. But we don't. People don't do it. But we could. I do it. Dude, just like when I was at the Social Security building. I don't know if you saw that video.
Yeah,
but I told them, I'm arresting everyone that stands in the way of me completing my business here today. That's all the employees that are here. Literally, all of them. And that's how I filed my federal criminal charges on them. Is that it's all of them. Dude, they went and shut those shutters. Like, oh, we gotta hide from this citizen. He's out there saying that he can do what he wants because it's his building. Like, we gotta close it down. Close it down. It's like, and then they're like, yeah, you created a disturbance. No, stupid. They created a disturbance. They shut down the business. They try and blame you for all of their crimes. But if you're smart, you just correct their pronouns because they're morons. Who was it that did it? You did it. So,
right. It was your choice to close down. They do that shit constantly for these auditors, man.
Yeah. This is totally doable to fix this fucking situation. But the thing is, people are going to have to stop saying what crime, what crime, what crime, and they're going to have to start knowing what crime the servant is committing against them. And then do it. Do it. Arrest them. Like you got to check state laws and all that obvious stuff. You got to read through the law. You need to know if you've got probable cause, so you're not getting sued and all that stuff, right? But it's like, once you do know it, then like this is solvable. You know, in my state, it's like if anyone is disrupting your lawful business, they're guilty of disorderly conduct. That's a complainant, that's me, and then we got the crime, and then we got the citizen's arrest. You can arrest anyone that you see committing a crime. That's what I got here. So, dude, it's literally as simple as that. Like, boom, 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 you're under arrest then. Dude, you don't come up to me and bother me. Like, stop with the entitled bullshit. I will fucking arrest you. And if everyone was doing that, dude, the shit would be over tomorrow. Seriously, literally tomorrow. That's all we'd have to do is literally just get legitimate, and you stand on your rights the way that they were designed. It was made. That's why we have laws, is so that the person breaking them can go to fucking jail, and we've got a whole system in place for it, and yet no one's using it right. Everyone just thinks it's the government's club to hit you with, and it's not that. They're on board though, man. I can't believe, videos like these get 6 views and stuff like that. But videos where it's like, oh yeah, just obey guys, just obey the pig. Oh yeah, he just wanted your ID, why don't you just give it to him? Those channels, they get like fucking 750,000 views in like a week, and it's like, why? You didn't say anything good or smart. You didn't tell anyone any laws. You didn't get anything right. All you said was obey, and you're getting 750,000 views on this video. Dude, that's the thing, man. They're choosing Satan. They're choosing Satan. You know, that's always going to be reprehensible to God. Always. They're choosing, like, I'm just going to say obey because look at all these views that I get, and I'll get paid if I say obey, but look at these guys that don't say obey. What do they get? Their channels are basically just throttled down and just, I mean, I have over 400 subscribers, but my videos will get like 60, I think, was the last video before this one that I just put up, our last interview. And this last one, I just put it up last night, but it's like, I don't know, 10 views or something like that. It's like, are you crazy? There's a million laws in there. There's like foundational government that we're talking about. There's like, they don't want the people to know it. And you know what? To tell you the truth, I don't know if they're the ones that are driving it, because these people are in such hardcore denial that when they hear the truth, they just straight deny it. These certain people, And while I do have like a lot of likes on YouTube, 75 to 85% likes on my cop videos, the people in your towns are not like that. They're not smart about this stuff yet. They're not even getting with it. They don't even understand there's a need for any of this. They think everything's hunky-dory, just like they've been told to think. That's what happens when you don't make choices on your own. It's just, you go by default with whatever's popular and going around, That's just what you think. So, some topics. I mean, dude, everybody's so lost that it almost doesn't matter what we talk about, because it's going to be at least, honestly, it almost doesn't matter, because dude, as long as people can start thinking on their own, that's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, man.
If they can start thinking on their own, they'll do what I am teaching them to do with citizen's arrest and getting these servants back under control. They'll understand that they are a person. They need to start making some choices in life and not just going with whatever. I mean, don't they know it by now? Seriously, Have the socialists made a good choice in the last 100 years? I want you to answer that the next show. Because I don't think they have.
Okay.
And that's the position I'm taking. I don't think the socialists have made even one good choice. Even World War I and II, getting involved with any of that, it's like, would have been better to just stay the fuck out of it and let it die out. You know? Just all the way back. Getting into education, did that work out? No. How about like giant military and fucking attacking people all the time without even declaring war anymore? We don't even declare wars.
Right.
You know,
We just
that's
live
not
in a
working
constant
out.
state of warfare.
What?
It's a constant state of warfare.
Yeah, and then now war with our
Globe and put your finger out and pick a country and blow them up.
yeah, and America is at war too constantly. It's constantly militarized, and somebody's constantly checking somebody's stuff for something, and it's just like, dude, papers please, and it's just, come on, man, this didn't work. This hasn't ever worked. We went to war in South Korea to kill people like you. Literally. Literally. Pinkos. That's you people. So, we went to war in Vietnam to do the same thing. That's all those wars were about. Essentially, Gulf of Tonkin, which was fake anyway. I don't even know what kicked off the South. Oh, let's see. Just the South Korea and North Korea conflict, and then we got involved in it or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but it's just like, if it was so important to go and kill Pinkos then, how is it a good idea to turn your kids over to Pinkos every day of their lives? And then cry when somebody talks around your kid. Oh, he's talking around the kid. Now he's filming it around the kid. Dude, get your kid out of public then.
Yeah, he said the F word.
Oh, yeah, you're swearing around kids. Fuck those kids. Get them out of public if it's a problem. Set them on ice back at your house until they're ready to go get brainwashed again by your local Nazi. The first Nazis that showed up wanting your kid. The first ones, you gave them to them.
Yep. Okay, so for the next show, you wanted me to find socialist success.
Oh, is there anything? Yeah, honestly.
Well, I'm writing this down so I can do some research and have some material ready.
Okay, yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, you said something about being prepared, so we'll be prepared this way. Okay, socialist successes. How many of those do you want me to give? If I can even find one, how about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it exists, but
well, they've succeeded in lots of ways that are detrimental to civilization.
Oh, right. Like their team is succeeding, but America is getting the shit end of it. Yeah, they're definitely succeeding.
But it's not. But it's not just America. It's not
right.
Just
the whole
America.
world. It's the whole
right.
world.
Like,
yeah. We take resources. We destroy governments. We whatever it is. We ship them medicines that are sometimes infected with diseases. Have you heard about that with Advil? I think.
All right, it was good talking to you, Kennedy. And
okay, sounds good.
So you be well, and we'll keep in touch.
You too. Talk to you later, Jack.